At his word, Edmund Fitton-Brown, senior fellow at the Foundation for Defense of Democracies and a former British diplomat, joins us now with more on this particular story. And I think it goes without saying, you ought to take the president seriously. If nothing else, Venezuela was a strong reminder of that. And yet, I think the leadership in Iran has this delusion that it can never happen to them. This is almost 1979 redux, very different movement, but still a movement nonetheless. Your thoughts?
Well, I think you've got that exactly right. They seem to have this idea that it can never happen to them. And, in the face of evidence from elsewhere, as you say, which ought to make them take it seriously, of course, they feel like they got away with crossing the red lines a week ago. At the beginning of this week, it would have been possible, of course, for the US to justify attacking Iran on the basis that they had massacred protesters after the president had warned them not to. Even so, I agree with you. I think that there's something strangely complacent about the Iranian regime. A lot of senior figures in Iran have actually been going out of their way to insult President Trump, which I would have said was unwise.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Let me share this. This is the Wall Street Journal weighing in on this particular story, and I'd love to get your reaction. I found it to be a fascinating read overall, and it just says in part, Iran's bloody record since 1979 underscores that it is a revolutionary regime rooted in Shiite extremism that wants to dominate the Middle East, destroy Israel, and kill Americans. There are prudential questions on the best ways to help topple the regime, but helping the Iranian people in this regime is the right goal that would make America and the world safer. Strong words there by the editorial board on Friday. Your reaction?
Well, I think the Wall Street Journal has got that exactly right. The fact is that the Iranians effectively declared war on the United States right at the beginning of this revolution when they took large numbers of American diplomats hostage in Tehran. They then adopted as a state-sanctioned slogan, "Death to America." And then they indulged in a series of state-sponsored terrorism across the Middle East and also outside the Middle East. And they have a huge amount of American blood on their hands, either through direct action by Iran or by their proxies, particularly Lebanese Hezbollah. So in my view, there has always been a perfectly sound moral case for the United States to pursue regime change in Iran. Maybe in political and practical terms, the moment wasn't right until recently. But what we see now is a regime that has completely lost the confidence of its own people. Those protests that we saw on the streets of a whole range of Iranian cities, large and small, all across the country, were enormous. And they were shouting for the return of the Shah. They were shouting death to the Ayatollah. And they are talking about a regime that can no longer even provide reliable water to the people of Tehran, can't provide heating and lighting in the Iranian winter, even though it's a hydrocarbons state. So what we have now is a regime that is weaker than it has ever been. And the one thing that it still had on its side was this resistance narrative. We are the heroes of anti-Israeli resistance. Well, they lost that in June when they were comprehensively defeated by Israel and the United States in the 12-day war. So this is a regime that is wobbling, ready to topple. And regime change is not about imposing something from outside. It's about working with something that has already started organically on the inside, and that can succeed.
Boy, so well said, and it's so true, because you have to understand that change does come from within, but we need to be positioned properly to assist those who are obviously on the ground and suffering so greatly. I've only got about 15 seconds or so left, but I would love to get your take on something that's been percolating a bit in Europe, and that's NATO strain between the U.S. and some NATO partners over Greenland. But also, the U.S. and Canada seem to be having some fractures here, with Carney sidling up with China. In about 15 seconds, 30 seconds or so, your broad strokes thoughts on all that.
I think my main point to make on this is that the United States needs reliable partners to share the burden on issues like Iran and issues like Syria. And NATO has proved itself to be a reliable partnership. So what I expect will happen is that there'll be some form of accommodation around how to secure Greenland and how to make sure that the US's legitimate security concerns are addressed. And
the old saying, better together. Edmund Fitton-Brown, terrific analysis as always. Thank you very much for your time today. We appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Still ahead, Washington hitting pause on crypto. A last-minute move on Capitol Hill that